I'm so glad that we're here for a pop-up studio book club reunion, a chance to celebrate, to make connections, to make extensions to the content in pop-up studio. And I know that there's questions and little case studies or moments to celebrate. So I'm going to stop talking and be a listener and respond as I can. Yeah. Cool. I don't know who wants to go first. You can choose between the two of you.
So what do you think, Charlotte?
I mean, anything is okay with me.
Go for it. You've got questions from your team.
Yeah. So they had several questions, but the most important question that they had was, and this is not only coming from Pop-Up Studio, you did share that you had gone for, we also follow the Reggio Emilia approach, and you share. So I did share with them that you went. So it is kind of mixture of both what we are reading in Pop-Up Studio and the Reggio Emilia approach. And it is basically how much do you provide for us to a student? So it's a research, or what you say, does it say that let the child do or work as per their perception? To give you an example, if I put a tulip plant in front of them and they can clearly see that there are green leaves and pink flowers, however the child wants to draw yellow or red or anything, so is it important for a teacher to correct the child at that stage? Or is it okay for child to share their own perception? I did share what I believe with my team, but I want to hear what you think.
Yeah, for sure. And Elaine's just coming in. I love that. I love that question because I feel like it really puts us into the tension of guided inquiry and free inquiry and emergent curriculum and mandated curriculum. Yeah. So I think any kind of answer, I think a straightforward answer would be, it depends, you know, but I will tell you what my understanding of what I was hearing from the pedagogistas and artilleristas in Reggio. I'm not going to quote them because I don't have my notes right in front of me, and they did talk about this. So I would like to get back to you with more of a quote from my notes, but it's in my backpack downstairs, so I don't want to take the time to go get it. One of the things that was very obvious to me studying in Reggio is that they are incredibly cohesive. They they opened the week with their philosophical orientation, which is, to my understanding, social constructivism. So they really adhere to that at every turn. And I think this is where we can do some learning sometimes. Even in IB schools, I think especially, I was thinking about different public schools that I've worked in or been able to visit in, and it's very diverse in terms of philosophical orientations, right? I mean, IB, technically, we should be, you know, and I know, Lou, you're very experienced, you could speak to this, but, and Elaine as well, that we're going to be more coherent. But even then, I think if we actually drill down, we may have differing views on what education is for and how to actually go about practicing. So when it comes to your question about, is it okay? The answer is, what are you going for? And if I think, right, and why, like to what end and for whom? And so if we are answering a question or we're correcting, right, and giving the answer, then we are not allowing for other things.
True.
So what are we prioritizing? So if we're saying, you know, we're really about, as I understand in Reggio, we're centering the child and their experience. And from what I understood, it's very much about moving into the complexities of the theories of the experience and pulling out those complexities. And for me, you know, I see those as concepts. So an
Mhm.
example that they showed from a project was talking about community. So that concept or that topic came from somewhere. The children brought it up somehow. And then the pedagogistas and the artilleristas said, let's go with this, right? We see something here. And from what I gathered, they're always paying attention to the complexities. They don't want benign content. Right. And so what I understood that they're doing then is they are using different materials, hi Lane, to set up contexts where children can be autonomous. And I feel like that in Pop-Up Studio. I mean, this work is heavily influenced by my learnings from that approach. But I've worked mainly with middle schoolers. So not being able to lean on project work from Reggio Emilia, I'm not seeing project work from Reggio Emilia with middle schoolers. So I'm looking at, okay, how do we provide these contexts for children to be autonomous around specific concepts, clusters of concepts? Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah. Sorry, I was also taking notes just to make sure.
Take notes. Yeah, take notes. So, yeah, and I think it gets a little bit even trickier with us because we're on a schedule. You know, if we're working in time frames of an example, 6-week cycles, you know, there's mandated content. It's not any full emergent curriculum. And so I can really respect and appreciate that at times we may need to step in and say, you know, here's this as an offering, right? Make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
And I think sometimes, I think we just have to maybe be careful about how much we provide as the teacher if we are attempting to be guides on the side and facilitators, because I think it's a tricky balance sometimes.
True.
Do you know what I mean? Because too much of like, here it is in correcting, that becomes the culture. And maybe too little, we don't have, it's just not practical. You know, and it can get annoying too. Like sometimes we're just like, just tell us, you know, I'm asking for it. Right. Yeah. So that's my thoughts. That's my thoughts on that.
I'm so sorry. Can I just ask one small thing? So what we are doing is we have this multi-age classroom. So it's not that preschool and pre-K is separate, but preschool and pre-K, they are together. So what we are trying to do is, and just let me know if it is not a correct approach. So 3-year-old, you know, we kind of allow them to move the way they want to move and just express and look at their perception of the world. However, when they turn 4, they don't have the nap time. And that is the time when we kind of provide them with, you know, little inputs about your work, of their work, or their, you know, where they are in their journey and how, okay, this is your perception, but this is what the world looks like. So is it okay for us to do it this way? Or do you think that, you know, we should kind of provide them with little inputs from the teacher? I mean, it's not that there are no inputs. When we have the circle time, we do talk about it. Okay, this is how it looks. This is how he has drawn it, which is completely fine. I mean, so is it fine to go with this approach?
Well, I have a number of things to say there. One is I don't feel any kind of position where I say something is okay or not okay. So I just have to respond that way. I can share with you what attracted me to certain things that we were hearing in Reggio, and I can tell you what some things from my practice working, you know, with older children too, that I found helpful. I feel comfortable with that. One of the things that they talked about clearly in that week in Reggio is that they have an opening meeting. And they talk about how important that meeting is. And we saw examples of projections, right, of a child's work. And the language is so intentional because, again, it's about constant experimentation and exploring, and those 100 languages, right? And expression and revisiting and going deeper in something, looking more closely at something, finding the nuances, finding the beauty, right? And so that's the spirit that the work is shared in. Yeah. And so there's an encouragement then of experimentation, and well, what if, and so-and-so is inviting us to consider these things, right? And the teachers have set up these contexts, the relaunches, right? And I love that language actually, because unlike provocation, relaunch reminds me of the and a launch. It's like this launching up of, I think it's Veyavecki talks about the ball toss, right? That ball toss metaphor. We're tossing a ball to our learners, they toss a ball back. And I was hearing another artillerista talk about, we only toss the ball in a way that we feel the learners are going to be able to hit it back. It's got to be like a respectful play. Yeah. And so the relaunches in material form are there to relaunch this complexity that's come up. So imagine, right, they are having their morning meeting. There's a sharing of someone's work. I'm thinking about this. I'm wondering, and they use the word proposal. They make a proposal. Right. So the proposal is there in verbal form, in verbal language, but also in other languages for the children to experiment, like maybe clay or maybe paint or maybe paper or things like that. But they are drawing attention to what I think a language we could use is a cluster of concepts or a phenomena that we're exploring. Is this landing? Is this feeling useful and helpful? Yeah. Okay.
It definitely is. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure.
Hi, Ellen.
So, Elaine, we're doing a Q&A, and we've got questions from early years teachers that are being proposed and being offered. So I'm doing my best to share. And there was some specific asks around, what did I learn in Reggio? I'm without my notes, and I took extensive notes that I still need to type up. I'm doing my best to call upon what felt meaningful and stood out for me, with the caveat that I am not quoting. These are not citations. So, take what I'm saying a bit loosely and check it out for yourself, because I could very well have misunderstood something. Yeah. I'm not here to educate on the Reggio approach. Like, let's leave that to Reggio children. But my connections and my own learning, I feel like I can share that confidently.
Well, thanks for sharing that. I am curious a little bit more. You mentioned they have morning meetings.
Yeah.
I have been to Reggio at the time, but when I went, there was nothing going on. It was literally empty. And I could walk around and spend as much time as I wanted in every single place. And there was two staff. It was holiday time, so there was two staff members around, and one of them just walked, and I could ask questions all by myself. I was just all by myself.
Wow.
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the time I just remember so much to absorb out there, right? But I didn't, and looking at the exhibitions, you can get an idea of what's going on, but I don't know I guess my question is, in your conversations with them, could you get a feel of what that really looks like on a day-to-day in the classroom? Because everything just looks so pristine. Everything looks like kids are super behaved. Everything looks like kids produce this amazing work. All the artwork was all put out so precisely, and you could see the progression in every single thing. But without kids around and without hearing, like, how did that actually come about? Like, I missed that part, kind of like trying to figure out.
For sure. Yeah. I definitely, again, I keep saying broken.
I know you don't have
my caveat is I'm not educating on the Reggio Emilia approach, but I can tell you, again, what stood out for me Elaine, in response to that. So first of all, when we're looking at the project work, we are looking at a publication.
Mm-hmm.
So there are artistic choices in creating any kind of publication or showcase, right?
Mm-hmm.
We are putting things in and we're leaving things out. And the purpose of the documentation is to allow us, is to make visible, is to make certain things visible. And so are there things that maybe they're not wanting to put in the documentation that would be for us, our everyday things, like someone screaming in the, in the corner?
Yeah.
Running with scissors or whatever it happens to be. Yeah, I think they're real. From what we were hearing, yes, we have real challenges and there's real things that are happening. Some of the things I think were a little bit, so I want to say two things there. Going back to the documentation and the artwork, again, I want to repeat the element of cohesion just struck me time and time again. And not just cohesion, but absolute dedication. Like at every turn, it's like we have a research orientation. Everything we are doing is research, and we believe wholeheartedly in social constructivism. So what does that look like when they have parents that are posing something different, or they can tell that the parents are maybe not so on board? It becomes research. So what can we do? What does this mean? Where are the parents at? Where are they coming from? What's going on? Which is different than we gotta set them right. Like, let's send them the learner profile and like our mission statement, like work it out.
I like that. Yeah.
So so again, like this, just putting one's beliefs into practice consistently with integrity is something I felt I observed, which I was like, whoa, this is a great example of what can happen when everyone's together. And their hiring, from what I'm seeing, right, their hiring process is really competitive, to get in and everything. So I wanted to just say the ethic of care is huge. And that was the thing, is from the cooks to the cleaning staff, to the pedagogistas, to the teachers, to the artilleristas, every single person has the time and space to come together to dialogue about the philosophy, why we're here, orientation to children, 100 languages, like everybody on the team. That is very different, right? I think. So yes, to putting out things, because children deserve beauty. We all deserve beauty. And when something is put out carefully, the response will be more careful. So the respect, I mean, oh my goodness, I was just taken by it time and time and time and time again. Is the level of respect. Is just.
And the respect for everything, people, places, and things, like everything. Yeah,
totally. And it was so interesting too. We got to visit Ramita. I don't know if you went there, but Ramita is a huge warehouse where it's an organization that they've got 3 actual like paid employees and everyone else is volunteers. And to see how they're presenting materials, and this project, the Ramita project, was initiated by Reggio Emilia teachers. And so it's all of these waste products now recast as learning materials. So going into classrooms, there's a ton of tables that are made of pallets. Is that what they're called? Like, the wood, that's the base. Simple wood top, that's a tabletop, right? Like you're looking, they're clearly working on a budget. Other than the art materials and food and a few things like that, so much of it is recycled. So I think the care and the recasting and the mindfulness, and with Ramita, one of the things they say is you are not allowed to use glue. I love that. It's something I've been concerned about with STEM projects for quite a while now. I'm like, I'm just having such an issue with this, is we've taken all these recyclables and now they're landfill. Like, I understand the learning, but like, and so they specifically say no glue, and that poses a challenge and a complexity to the children for putting things together without glue. They say glue is too easy.
Love it.
Yeah.
God, I was like, that is going to
So
be
it's
on my
statement.
Instagram. No glue.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is, but like, but just again, that to me, that's integrity, that's respect. That's like, you know, we're fully showing up with our philosophy at every turn. And that means like it's not always going to be easy, I think. Like I can't imagine it's always easy, you know, but they put themselves into questions, they put themselves into the complexities. That's their whole pedagogy. You know, that's very different than like let's explore efficiencies, you know.
Yeah.
Obviously there's not a place for that. We're looking at wasting heat or, you know, things like that, but I don't know about efficiencies in pedagogy. And it got me thinking about filler. You know, when we were in Brussels with Lou there, you know, we had this beautiful chocolate tasting. And the first chocolate, you know, I mean, while it brought back for us, you know, North Americans, like these, you know, childhood memories and things, you know, your typical Hershey's, just to hear the fillers. And it made me think about filler teaching. Right? And like, I didn't see filler in Ratio. I was like, there's not doing stuff that's like, let's just keep the kids busy for a bit. Like, they've got reasons behind all the things, you know? Yeah. I hope I answered your question or responded to your question in a way
You
that
did. No, you
leads
did.
to something else. Yeah.
Yeah, it always does. And that's the beauty of these conversations. And questions are supposed to lead to more questions, aren't they? Yeah. I was thinking of something while you were talking there about the filler. Oh, it reminds me of when you're talking about the respect and the respect for everything, but also it reminded me of the design framework, and it reminds me of, you know, the whole empathizing stage of design thinking. And you know, I mean, the whole point of that is to take it from a point of questioning and empathizing. And where is the problem? You know, when you say, why aren't the parents on board? Well, then that's an easy design thinking thing that you just dig into, you research and you figure out. It doesn't mean you have to manipulate and create something. It might just mean the outcome or the output is probably just a new way of seeing things. It might just be a switch, you know, start this thing in the morning instead of later, or you know what I mean? There's little things that can be changed just by empathizing first and paying the respects to the problems that we see that are needed, right?
And that's making me think about, you know, I love pairing words together. And it's like, you know, with those concepts, right? You just put, you know, one concept with another concept, you switch that out, and it's like, this just tickles your brain. This is so fun. But it made me think about research and respect, right? Respectful research, respectful researching, right? Like, and empathic research, compassionate research, right? It's different. And how the research might become projects, you know, like this is a project and it's always like for service. It's always to better something and improve something, to be more compassionate, to be more democratic. Like, again, I feel like their ends and their means are so clear and they're so aligned, you know? And it also made me think about, you know, in the respect and the research, something you said, and it just went out of my mind. The design thinking. Yeah, there was another, not when I was in Reggio, but I always every year go, if anyone comes from Reggio, I always attend. And so there's usually our like provincial Pro D day. There's the Reggio Association holds something, and if I'm not presenting, or like even if I am presenting, I try to like still get there somehow. So anyway, it was two artilleristas, and they were talking about design thinking, and they said that is what we're using all the time. So it doesn't surprise me that you picked that up. I was like, oh yeah. And I've been learning, from these educators since 2006. And I was like, the first time, like putting that together, like, duh, I just realized like, oh yeah, like it's, and again, I don't have my notes in front of me, but they actually walked through like kind of like 4 stages that they go to, the relaunch being that last stage. But I just think, Lou and I are talking regularly about language and ideas and metaphors and things like that. And language is so powerful. And you got to find those pieces that really speak to you. Like, provocation spoke to me, for a long time. And now relaunch is reigniting something for me. It's allowing me to move deeper in certain areas that I wasn't thinking about, or make connections or tie things together, create new kinships, in my thinking. So I think it's really fun to keep exploring. But, also what I was going to say is, yes, empathy, but it's interesting to also be centering complexity so often, which is different than, oh man, I got like all this content I got to go through. It's a checklist. And we haven't got all the colors yet. Like, we're missing 5 colors. That's so different than like, how can we be exploring the complexity or get into the complexity of color?
Right? Because you can't explore the complexity unless you have the basic foundation. True. I mean, that goes back to Erickson's work that you and I both have engaged with, is that you can't expect, and that's what I don't understand, is people throw children into these complex situations, but then there's been no scaffolding up, and it's like, no wonder they're drowning and the behavior has gone up, right? And the same with us as educators, is that oftentimes it's like we don't have any PD, and then all of a sudden, okay, we're going to do this massive read aloud, or on this book, and we're going to take strategies and implement them, and you're like, I don't even know what inquiry is, and you want me to implement it in my classroom, right? And we go from 0 to 60, and without thinking of the learner.
Oh my gosh. And that's making me think too of another, like a whole presentation that we had on daily life. And to me, I made so many connections, right, to Pop-Up Studio, obviously inspired by that work, and others. But those compelling, to me, the language I'm using is compelling context. Compelling contexts come from our daily life. And then if it's from daily life, we have actual experience with it. That's why I think field trips are so great, or any kind of like a movie that anything multimedia. So we have more chances for input, right, with the sensory, to get us on the same page of, okay, we've had a shared experience we can actually draw from. I get to present at Kaleidoscope next weekend, like Lou and I've been talking, and she's like, are you ready? I'm like, no, but I'm getting there. It takes me a long time to prepare. I mean, I'm ready in certain ways, but like, like deciding exactly, what I'm going to offer. And I've invited my artist PhD colleague Calder to work with me. And I was saying to Lou earlier today, Calder just holds my feet to the fire, because their work as a land-based, indigenously informed, non-binary artist, it's constantly like, are we really providing enough depth? Is this meaning? Are we, putting people into complex situations where they're going to be vulnerable, but are we going to unpack that? Like, is there enough time? Like, it's just where I can even, like, I've been trying to be more in that space. I can get caught up in like, are we just giving people enough content? 90 minutes, like, are they going to have enough time to really understand, see me, or even like see the slide, but just again, reminder of like, maybe we do need to put the experience first and then draw out, even though that's suspending a little bit of desire for content as adults, like, just tell me what to do, or just tell me what it is. I know I can get into that space. So to suspend that and say, we're going to actually experience something and then draw out, because you're going to have embodied knowledge, which is far more than simply cognitive Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
we covered a lot of ground today, friends.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
shoot.
you.
We've got a poor Vicky. I've been, I think she might have been hanging in the waiting room for a while. I should have made you co-host, Lou. Actually, I'm going to do that.
That's all right.
You might want to continue on the conversation because I have to duck out here in just a minute. Oh, if I
Okay.
make,
I
make
do
you
have to duck
co-host,
out
then you
too.
can carry on, right?
Yes, you can just make me host.
Oh, make you host.
Uh-huh.
I have to duck out as well in about 5 minutes. Sorry.
No
I just
worries.
want to pop in to see you all again.
So only in our last few minutes together, I don't know, what do you think? Maybe I know we're like, do we want another question and a quick response, or do we want to close with something that tweaked us or something we're going to hold on to? I'm leaning towards the latter personally.
Mhm.
To kind of bring some closure and just to hold on to some things.
Mhm.
But I don't want you to feel like, you didn't get enough. Although we can come together again. This doesn't have to be the last time. So
Right.
how about that?
Yeah,
Knowing we can have another time.
Yeah.
How do we feel about closing with even a 1-word or a 3-word story? I love those challenges. 3-word story
Yeah.
of tonight's meeting. 3-word story. Doesn't even have to be beginning, middle, end. It could just be this, and this. Themes that came up for you. Top of mind.
Okay, I've got mine.
Okay, go for it.
Mine is it's literally those 3 words you just said earlier. Relaunch design thinking. Because okay, let's leave it at that first.
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
Yep. We'll have to come back together to learn more about why, but you're just teasing us. You're giving us a brain teaser of relaunch design thinking. Yeah, because my brain's already going places there that are meaningful to me. So that's a gift. We're giving each other a gift of these 3 words.
Oh, I'll write it down.
So there's my thank you.
The
Lou, do you want to go
three-
next? I'm kind of going around counterclockwise on my screen, but I know our screen's all
Okay.
or it doesn't
Go
matter.
for it. Go for it, Shailaja.
As soon as you said 3 words, the 3 words that came in my mind were the respectful, compassionate research. So that is something, and it's just, there are things that happen. I'm sorry, I'm just one sentence. Things that happened this week has led me to say these 3 words.
Write them down so you remember for next time.
Yeah, good idea. I will forget later on.
Oh, you are looking at me now. I'm thinking about, I think at the end of the day, it really comes down in my mind is be mindful of feedback. Because if we give too much, then it stops the child from progressing and having agency, right? But too little can then make so many misconceptions. Oh, I wasn't supposed to explain it. Oops. I never followed the rules. Oops.
But it was helpful.
So the 3 words again were be mindful of feedback.
Yeah. 4 words. Be mindful of feedback.
Be mindful of feedback.
Hi everyone. I don't know what you have discussed, but sorry, I mean I got confused with the timing.
And you were stuck in the waiting room because of me. I'm so sorry. I was I was being very present with our friends, and I was not attending to the waiting room, and I forgot to make Lou a co-host or the host so that she could be attentive to the waiting room. So I apologize. But this is recorded and we'll share it with the group. So you can always go back and revisit. And I can, spend some time. I've got so many transcriptions I want to write because it's so great when you actually take the time, like they do in Regio, to transcribe. It just helps your analysis and your meaning making, right? So So
Absolutely.
let's plan to meet again, friends. It's always nice to connect, and you know where to reach me if you are interested and you wanna make that time. I'm always happy to hear from you and dialogue.
Great.
Wonderful.
And thanks for
And
your
then we'll
support.
be in touch.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you so